Hi, fellow curious on-chain diplomats. My name is Ija, and I'm one of the co-founders of Curio. In this video, I'm going to briefly demo you how Treaty the game works. But if you want to find a more detailed version of how the game should run or should work, you should head to the game doc that is on our website. There are also other articles on Treaty that we've put out before. Without further ado, let's head to the game website. Here you should see the game that is not called sample that you can play, and you should have two options to log in as the first time player. There should be a Connect wallet, which you can connect to your MetaMask or other wallet, and there should be a email login, which uses Marble Wallet for you to have a very easy login experience. I've already logged in with Marble, so let me just enter my username and join. While it's loading, let me tell you a bit about the components of the game. Treaty is a 4x strategy game where you take the role of a wise governor in a fully on-chain world, and your goal is to capture the flag tile at the center of the map, which is right here. And to do that, you need to allocate resources, expand territory, and choose which players to trust and collaborate with treaties. There are two types of resources in the game. Crystal is heavily used for upgrading your capital as well as resource buildings, and food is heavily used for troop production. So let's head back to our capital. You see our capital sits on a tile, which is the fundamental spatial unit of the game. There are a few types of tiles. This is a crystal mine, which produces crystal over here. The empty space next to my capital over here are farms after you send armies to attack and capture these tiles. The little guy here and here and here, these are barbarians, which you can defeat with your armies when you have enough troops for a lot of resource rewards. And occasionally you will see these, which are mountains that are impassable. So let's produce an army, shall we? We have some initial troops when we join the game, so we can use them to create an army. This hand over here means you can harvest, and you can click on it for some initial resources. Our capital, just like our eventual crystal mines as well as food farms, will be able to produce both food and crystal. Okay, we've got our first army. So you can click on the army to move or gather or unload resource or retreat back into cities, which are the actions for a army. So now let's move the army over to this crystal mine over here. You see that the army of 3 troop types auto moves on the map along this path. And you shouldn't need to move them. Our army is on top of the crystal. So now let's start gather. Unfortunately, it still says gold, but it's actually crystal. Okay, great. So now we are harvesting. You see that over here, we have the army's total load for resources being 784k, right? So we pretty much need to wait almost around 1.5 minutes for the harvest to be complete. And then we can harvest and gather the session and then head back to your capital to unload the resource. There are 2 other ways in which you can collect resources in this game. One is fighting barbarians. Once you have a powerful enough army or many powerful enough armies, you can send them to fight the barbarian. And once the barbarian's health goes to 0, right now it has 1130 defense. Once it goes to 0, you get a lot of rewards, both in crystal and food. The other approach to getting resources is, as I said earlier, to actually occupy tiles. For example, these empty tiles, which will become farms, and this gold mine, which can produce, crystal mine, which can produce crystal. Out of these three, Barbarian is most effective, Gather is the next, and actually harvesting from your resources is the least effective. However, that's the most stable passive way of income. Okay, so our Gather is getting up there. Let's actually explore the cool part of the game right now. So there's 3 things over here. Let's go to the treaty library. This is the library where you can play with treaties. And you see over here, these show all of the available treaty templates, including some that are created by our wonderful community members. Simply go ahead and click Fork Template over here to create your own treaty out of one of the templates. You can also read more about what each function does in these descriptions. So now you can head over to My Treaties, and you're able to interact with these functions from here. And other players are able to do that as well. This lock is Delegation Center, where you can delegate your functions or undelegate them to other players or other treaties. Finally, we have this ERC20 Center, where you're able to send tokens, including gold, food, crystal, I always say it wrong, horseman, and warrior, to any other entity in the game. Great. So now we can see that our army gather is finished. Let's finish gather. And we see that, boom, we have 784k crystal. And now let's move the capital back to, move the army back to our capital tile and unload our resources there. So let's see, we have 18.2 million crystal. After the unload, we should have more. This map is 51 by 51 tiles, and you should have a bunch of other players to compete with. So let's unload resources. Now we see that our army's resources reset, and we indeed gained some resources in our capital. It's great. Now let's do a last harvest. Okay, so let's now start using this army to fight a tile. In order to fight a tile or fight another army, you simply click left the army and then right click the target. For example, this little red sword in the middle. And once you see your army is blinking red, means that it's battling. So now this army is actually too weak to completely subdue this tile. And so you should produce your armies first, or troops, and then make a stronger army to occupy more tiles. Okay, let's wrap up. If you haven't, please join the Discord, which you can find on our website, curio.gg, and give us feedback. The future of user-generated logic needs your input. And happy competing.